One of the biggest issues in the acting industry is people lying through their conceit about skills and abilities they don't have. Worked on a film a little while ago with a girl who's supposed to be a good horseman. She was the worst. She was on that horse for maybe 20 minutes, by which point she'd wound the horse up so badly we couldn't put it back in its stall, so she ended up getting fired and replaced. If you lie about being able to paint and you can't paint, it really won't affect the movie because they can just have someone else do most of the painting. But if you lie about being able to use a sword or ride a horse, everyone's life is at risk because you've lied about a skill that really can affect people's lives.
I'm Ryan and I made a film called Every Legend Ends. Today I'm joined by one of the key people who brought it to life, Jack Butler, the film's fight choreographer, who's here to share some insight into the art of fight choreography and how these sequences come together. Alright, let's talk about collaboration in fight choreography, because it's not just you doing it. It's also about collaborating with the director, which in this case is me. So how closely did you work with me on planning this fight? You
gave me certain parameters that you wanted involved in the fight.
Yeah.
Like the weapons be taken away from him. There were certain things we couldn't do, which I initially wanted just because of money, frankly. At the end of the day, in the film industry, you can do anything. You want to blow the world up, blow the world up. Just have the budget for it. So when you're working with a limited budget, there are certain things you can do, certain things you can't do.
What did that entail? I don't remember that. What was my plans?
There was a lot more physical interaction between the two, like a pick-up and a throw, I think you wanted.
Right. I did get that in at the end, actually, but it was just self-contained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gave me like a shape for the fight.
Yeah.
And then you gave me a skeleton, I put flesh on it.
It's a nice image. I mean, we were saying earlier about how you have to think about the fight in context of where it is in the story. So like I was thinking, all right, at this point, what do I need to happen and why, and what do I want to come out of it? But it's interesting you're saying that you have that in your mind as well.
Well, it's important for the choreographer to know, like, you don't have to read the whole script, you don't have to be involved with the whole film.
Yeah.
But you do need to know where your fighters are in their arc in the story. Yeah. Like if they've got a bad arm, a bad leg, if they've previously been injured, maybe he's got black eye, whatever. All of that will change how you fight. But also, you have to know where you are in the story. Does someone need to dominate in this? Are you trying to make someone look bigger and scarier? Are you trying to make them look weaker? Is it just an encounter? Yeah. So there's a lot of storytelling involved in how the fight goes together.
What's interesting is I don't think I sent you the whole script. So you just knew that little bit. And it was all about the context that I gave you, like verbally. Yeah. This is what should happen. Because you didn't know what the point was in a way of the fight, apart from just, you have to come in, you have this guy come in, you have the monster come in, and this is how you've got to end it, and how you come out of it, which is interesting really, where you don't really know the context in some ways. So when you're collaborating with people, are there certain questions you ask?
Yes.
Like fixed questions where you say, this is what I've got to know?
I do. I wouldn't say I have set questions, but there are certain information that I need to know. Who dies? Does anyone die? How savage do you want the fight to look?
Right.
Because you can make a fight look more or less savage by the moves that you use, the techniques you use. For example, if someone's on the ground, if I want to make the person who stood over them more dirty, more savage, they'll attack with a stamp instead of a kick. Because a stamp is more visceral, it's disdainful, and it's an injuring thing. You're doing it to hurt them. A kick is also to hurt them, but it's again moving them away from you. It's a distancing thing, and it's just not as rude. You're stamping on someone, it's really disdainful. It's really kind of have it. So yeah, there's a lot of information I need. But the basic ones is, does anyone die? What are their skill levels and how dirty do you want the fight to look? What
is the usual feedback you get from directors? Like if I don't know anything about how a fight works, you can't necessarily give feedback like you would on a colour grade, where that's more my expertise, let's say.
In a lot of ways, that was to your advantage, because not only did you not know, but you were very open about it and you asked really good questions. You knew roughly what you wanted. And then you said, can you make this happen? I said, we can do this, this and this, but we can't do that. And then we did this, this and this. And got a really good fight out of it. A lot of directors are quite insecure and they won't say what they don't know. So they give very vague instructions and you keep having to go, right, so we're going to do this here. Are you good with that? Oh, yeah, that's good. No. And then they'll try and throw their 2p in, and sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. But as a director, what I really want from them is as much clarity as possible. If there's something you don't know, ask. I'm delighted to explain what I'm doing and how I'm going about it. If I can help someone else to learn, brilliant. If you already know what you know, please be clear. Just say, here's what I want this to happen here, this to happen here, and then for her to stick a knife up his bum. Brilliant, cool, we'll do that. Whatever it is, we'll find a way to make it work.
This is a script from John Wick. As the bodyguard drops to his knees, bleeding out, the second guard produces a pistol, and as John moves into him, manages to fire off a round which punches through John's shoulder. What is better? Is it better to describe action? Like in a script, is it better to overly describe fights or just sort of Star Wars thing where you just say they fight?
It very much depends on the style of the action. If you've got weapons involved, more detail is better.
Yeah.
If you've got very stylized fighting, more detail is better.
Right.
When you've got something that's more brawl-like, you don't need as much description because it's a brawl. But with something like this, where you've got one guy taking out multiple opponents, you need to know where everyone is. And effectively, this is blocking. So he's written out the fight. So there is still interpretation of which way you turn, how you move, how you move within the space.
Yeah.
But this looks to me like they've sat down with the fight choreographer.
Yeah.
And they've stage by staged it so that they can reproduce it as many times as they need to.
Yeah, because the scriptwriter, isn't obviously always an expert at fight choreography. No. That's interesting what you say about describing the blocking, because this is sort of breaking apart, in a way, what has to happen at what point, but it's sort of open to interpretation, because you're saying about blocking, but it doesn't say like, the guy is standing opposite him at this exact location. No. It's just like he shoots this person, he does this, he says this. It's not, so it's sort of, it's descriptive, but it's not closing off.
Yeah, it's the actions, but not the movement.
Yeah, okay.
So these are the actions that must happen, but there's no, and it takes him 2 steps to get to this. Yeah. This is 1 step, he pivots here. Yeah. So that would be the bit that you'd work out. I would sit down with the actor and the director and the head of, the department of director of photography, stupid teeth, and we sit down with this, and then we grab a red pen and I've got to come up behind the bodyguard. I'm taking left hand on the wall, right hand to drive out, and to snap, door won't budge. Excellent. So I turn 2 steps to get to the thing. Am I touching the bodyguard, or am I just going with the straight blade? Am I controlling his fall? Am I pushing him away from him? Am I just watching him fall? So in pen, it would be 2 steps to bodyguard, left hand grabs tie, right hand cuts throat, pushes to side as the bodyguard drops to his knee. Second guard comes across, so he's probably to my right. I've cut this way, I'm going to move in. I've got a backhand cut, shot goes off, I take the gun. So that would be what would be written in pen around this, the actual physical movements that get from action to action.
Yeah.
Because this is like, effectively, this is what you gave me with the gun is taken away, guy is knocked over, just can't draw pistol.
Things that have to happen, but the way they happen can be open to interpretation. Because at the beginning of this, like this, she's just looking around the forest, and then the whole point was like it's meant to surprise him, not just turn up in front of him, and then he turns around. Then well,
I think the monster coming from behind was part of our discussion of how we were going to get rid of the gun. Because it came from in front, he was going to shoot it. Obviously, he'd shoot it.
Yeah.
So it need to come from behind. It needs to be close enough. So when he turned around, he could grapple the gun straight away.
How would you adapt? Can you adapt choreography, fight choreography, on the day if the director says to change it?
It's doable but dangerous, especially if you've rehearsed, and especially if you're using weapons. If you've rehearsed doing things a certain way, and then on the day the director's like, "Oh, actually, can you do it this way instead of that way?" You then have to basically reprogram your actors. Because you do go back to, especially with swords, you go back to muscle memory. And if one person's going off one memory and one person's going off the new memory, then that's when you get accidents.
You have the same thing with trying to figure out camera angles where, if you're in, like an office like this, obviously I know exactly where everything would be, but you might turn up and suddenly like something's in the way, or like a pillar that you didn't think was there. So it means you can't use the angle you wanted to, or it's smaller than you thought, or just things like that where unless you are in the space and you're actually doing the thing as you were going to do it, you sort of, there's still that element of uncertainty.
This is what happened with us in the woods. Yeah. And we thought we'd have more space than we did.
Yeah.
But and at the end of the day, it wasn't a huge difference. No. It was just the direction Paul fell the first time he went down.
What about working with actors? So how do you bounce off their abilities? I mean, did you know he had martial arts experience?
Yes.
Yeah. So did you sort of build what you were doing around that? Because Sophie, who plays the monster, I don't think did, or did she? I don't think she had.
Yeah, she does.
So this whole fight, in a way, is probably easier for you because you know that they both know how to.
One of the biggest issues in the acting industry is people lying through their fucking teeth. About skills and abilities they don't have. Worked on a film a while ago with a girl who's supposed to be. She said she'd rode in Gymkhanas. She was supposed to be a good horseman.
Right.
She was the worst.
Right.
She was on that horse for maybe 20 minutes, by which point she'd wound the horse up so badly we couldn't put it back in its stall because it wouldn't have been safe.
Wow. Okay.
So she ended up getting fired and replaced, and we ended up charging her agency for the lost day because they'd lied to us about her skills and abilities. Now, if you lie about being able to paint and you can't paint, it really won't affect the movie because they can just have someone else do most of the painting. But if you lie about being able to use a sword or ride a horse, everyone's life is at risk. Because you've lied about a skill that really can affect people's lives. One of the things I've started having written into contracts when I join a new production is a clause that says if any actor has lied about their skills in such a way that they're a danger to themselves or others, they're to be instantly replaced. Now, if they're open up and upfront and say, hey, we've got this actor, they're brilliant for the part, but they haven't got any background that they need to learn this skill, great, let's take the time, let's teach them that skill. I will happily teach someone how to use a sword. Give me a weekend, I can make someone able to fake using a sword for a fight.
We've got stuff here, actually, which is you teaching them how to use swords. That was just like a day of you, I presume, going through like simple movements of like, here's how you make it look convincing. Can you do a similar thing with, is it just swords you can do, or is it like hand-to-hand stuff and guns? Can you do a similar like crash course where you can make somebody safe and convincing looking very quickly? Or
it very much depends on the larger context. In a weekend, can I get someone able to do a simple sword fight? Yes. Can I make them convincing to do it? Yes. Can I make them into a good enough swordsman for a whole film? No, that takes longer. Same thing with a regular fight with any other skill. I can teach someone to fake a combat skill for long enough for a scene and to look convincing doing it. But if you want more than just a scene, then that's going to take more time up front to teach them the small movements and the other things they need to learn how to do.
I mean, this is sort of like front and center fight. That most of them are sort of background fighters. I think a lot of these are like foam swords as well in the background. It's literally just bang, bang, like parrying.
We didn't need a field full of double-R ninjas. No. We just needed some background fighting. Some movement in the background.
No, this is an interesting scene because the background fighters, none of them really knew how to use a sword. I mean, the guys in the front, they did, because they were LARPers, or maybe not LARPers, but
reenactors.
Reenactors, and they know how to use a sword. The people in the background didn't, and obviously that's why you put them in the background. But, as I say, you're still able to make it look convincing. That's presumably not how you'd fight in the background. That's not how you'd fight with a sword. No. But because you're not looking at them directly, because they're in the background, it sort of doesn't matter. It's just about creating the sense of movement.
In fact, graded movement like they're doing in the background is actually better for background fighting than actual fighting.
What movement? Graded, did you say?
They've each been given 2 moves.
Right. Oh yeah,
which they're doing
and that, isn't it?
Which they're doing at each other. Each pair has a slightly different set of moves. So no, they're not all doing the same thing, but they're all doing simple controlled movements, which means it's not distracting. You're not trying to go, oh my God, did that guy do a backflip?
Yeah.
It's just very simple. here is what you're doing. You are an NPC. These are your two movements.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you do in, you do in like crowd animation, where you can literally have the same animation be on different characters, but as long as you space it out or have different lengths, which is sort of what you're doing here, which is they're doing exactly the same movements, but it looks like they're doing different things, even though it's exactly the same. Can you get a sense of, like, if somebody is completely inexperienced and they tell you, I don't know anything, you can sort of tell, can you tell what level they're able to perform to, if that makes sense? So
very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, how do you judge that? Do you just put them through a few moves and then you say...
Some people are enormously physically adept. And even if they've never held a sword before, they can learn how to do something like this very, very quickly. Other people are incredibly physically inept. And it doesn't matter how much time you spend trying to teach them. They will never get beyond very basic skills. And I see them come through my sword class all the time. There's some people who pick it up in a flash, and it's very depressing because it took me bloody years to learn all that. And then other people who, they can learn the basics and they'll become a very competent swordsman, but they'll never have that grace or that style of a real swordsman. So yeah, you learn very quickly to sort of analyse people's movements, how aware they are of their body. What's the process of training actors for fights? I guess it depends on what kind of fight it is. Is there a sort of minimum rehearsal time for a fight that you would recommend to have? Very much depends on the people you get. Some people pick it up quicker than others. I prefer a full weekend to rehearse. I break it into 2-hour blocks. Little breaks in between, because I find more than 2 hours people lose focus. If I can get those 2-hour blocks over a week, that's even better, because it's more time for people to let it seep in. Because there is an upper limit as well. You can over-rehearse, and then you get fight scenes that look really fake because everything's too smooth. I was going to ask that as well about, can you rehearse too much? But also, there are some films where it is very choreographed. I mean, The Matrix is sort of like that in some scenes, where, especially the bullet time scenes. So I guess the question is, what is there an ideal rehearsal time, or does it depend on too many factors? It very much depends on too many factors. The people involved, the actions involved, the conditions that you're going to be filming in. There's so many variables, so there's no hard answer to that. A lot of choreographing a fight is a stylistic choice. You get something like the Chinese cinema. Their fight scenes are more like full contact tap dancing than an actual fight. There's nothing actual fight-like about a lot of their fight scenes. It's all so rehearsed and so movement into movement into movement. It's beautiful, but it doesn't look like a fight. I like fights that look like fights. The Matrix is a wonderful example of a marriage of the two, because when he goes into the bullet time and he's dodging things, it is very choreographed, it is very exact. And certain parts of the fights, when they're going into each other, are very, like when they're training, are very Chinese martial arts style. But then a punch gets through and it goes back to the Western style because suddenly someone's bleeding from the face. How do the actors contribute to shaping the action? Every human being is slightly different. So they move differently, they fight differently, they fall differently. So when I put together the choreography, what I tend to do is put together like a shape, and then I'll fit the actors into it. And how they fall will determine where we put that, how they punch, how they kick, if they can punch. That will inform how we do the actual meat of the fight. So because Paul was very good at falling, we were able to knock him down a bunch. And we could decide where he was going to land and how he was going to land. Some people don't fall over very well. They just don't. And you can feel yourself wince every time they fall over, because you know they're going to land badly or something. So, I mean, you had in your an idea about how this fight, for example, was going to go. But I don't think you knew Paul really before you were in the room with him. So, like, if he couldn't do that kind of stuff, what would you have done? Oh, it would have been a much shorter fight.
Search the perimeter. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's a monster in there, and I think that this sword has something to do with a legend to destroy it.
Every legend ends, Pete. Might as well be today.